we interrupt this weekly quarantine schedule to bring you a special episode of HattieJo. Hello, I am William Jamar.
And I'm Hattie.
And this is our podcast, HattieJo.
What are we doing?
What are we doing? We are currently quarantined. Hopefully you're doing the same and being safe.
And if not, I hope you're social distancing as much as possible.
Yes.
If you're not able to work from home. And to those of you that are essential personnel at places like hospitals, working for the community, like trash collection, mail, all that sort of stuff that is still going, we very much appreciate your efforts to keep things working smoothly for the rest of us. So
yes, that is very much appreciated.
Yeah, we see you, we appreciate you, and everyone else, stay home. Don't be going to bars. Don't be going to the beach. This is not a time to party with other humans. This is a time to stay away from other humans.
Yeah.
Except for those that you live with.
Yeah. We're not much we can do about this. Like, I'm not moving though. Are you?
Well, there have been reports of people that work in hospitals and stuff that will like quarantine themselves to one area of the house.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because like if someone else gets sick or if they're sick, they're like, okay, I'm living in the garage or I'm living in the guest room, and I'm because they're really trying to do their part. So.
Well, thank you, people.
Yes.
Anyway,
sorry.
Yeah, what we've been doing during this quarantine is we actually got a chance to watch Love is Blind. So we're
working from home.
Yeah.
And we also do a lot of workouts together. Take Amelia on a walk.
Yeah, but we're watching the show Love is Blind, and we kind of.
So tell us, for those that are not familiar with Love is Blind, can you tell us what it is?
So the premise of the show, it's on Netflix. So if you have a Netflix account, you can go and check it out.
And it's a reality TV show.
Yeah, it's a reality television show, and they basically they call it a social experiment to try and see if love is actually blind. So starts off with 10 people.
No, 20 people, because there's 10 males and 10 females.
Yeah, 10 guys, 10 girls, and they are basically in these like pods where you can talk to each other, but you cannot see each other. And so,
so they're not stuck in the pod. So the women live in a house or somewhere, and the men live somewhere communally, and then they go on dates with each other.
Yeah.
The dates are all in these pods, so they walk into a room, 2 rooms that are adjoining each other, and you can hear the person in the other room, but you can't see them.
Yeah. So basically, you have to once you are in these pods and having conversations with people, basically within a week's time, people are like proposing to each other.
But isn't there also, they know that going in that this whole thing is sped up in time. It's not like we're here for 10 months and you can talk to them for a year or whatever. It's like we have weddings set up for anyone that feels like they want to get married.
Yeah, and the weddings are already the wedding date is already set.
Right, right. So part of the premise of the show is not being able to see each other for the dating portion, but it's also like just this fast-tracked situation.
Yes. Let's get to the wedding date. We ain't got time to waste.
Yeah.
So, what were your initial impressions of the show? Like, what did you like?
Well, you made some comment about how this reminded you of The Bachelor and The Bachelorette.
Yeah,
and
it definitely did.
A lot of notable differences, but a lot of similarities. I do feel like those shows also have one person dating a lot of people. And in this case, it was a lot of people dating a lot of people. Everybody's dating each other.
Yeah.
So there's the drama associated with that. And I also feel that The Bachelor and Bachelorette are on some of these accelerated timelines. I don't know if it's the same timeline. I felt like this show is a little bit more accelerated. Not that I've ever really watched The Bachelor or Bachelorette, but I have some preconceived notion that maybe The Bachelor and Bachelorette occur over a longer period of time. I might be very wrong on that. But even if it is slightly longer, it's still much more accelerated, in my opinion, compared to a normal.
And I think also
a regular relationship.
Understanding of The Bachelor and Bachelorette, you don't have to get married at the end.
Right.
Like, this is pretty much either, I guess it's not like, pretty much like you're going into this thinking like, I'm going to find a marriage, a husband or a wife.
Yeah, and usually with Bachelor and Bachelorette, the end of the show is the proposal. Not.
But they've had time to like be together. Like, because like the end of the show is also like a year after like they've been through this. So they've had a chance to like.
Wait, you mean in Love's Blind?
In the Bachelor.
Well, I guess I wasn't counting those reunion shows as the end of the show.
Oh, I was counting those in the show.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Nah, it doesn't matter about
Yeah, it
that.
doesn't matter. Anyway, so we're focusing on Love's Blind.
Yes.
So my main impression was, it was, you know, as you would expect from this type of show, it would be filled with hilarious drama and people acting in unreasonable, unpredictable ways that it's like, what are you doing?
Yes.
So I found it entertaining. I was very shocked by the number of people that in less than 5 days of having these talking dates were like, you're the love of my life, I want to marry you. And in this show, the proposal has to happen before you see the person.
Yes.
So I think that was most shocking to me, because that just seems really accelerated. And in my past relationships and in my relationship with you, you know, I felt that we had a very special, strong connection early on, but I also felt that me getting to know you happened in a lot of ways that wasn't just you sitting down and saying, hey, like, this is my family structure, or this is my opinion on this. It was us interacting with each other or living through different situations and watching how you acted and responded that allowed me to get to know you in a way that confirmed, like, yes, I want to marry you, right? Or
well, it's funny because, like, in these situations, you're literally relying on, like, the other person to, like, communicate those things to you. And you to kind of get a feel for, like, the personality to, like how good is their communication skills. And as we learned and watched throughout the show, like, some of their communication skills aren't the best. And it works better, like, the way they communicate works better when they, like, aren't seeing people.
Yes.
Or, like, there's, like, some, for lack of a better word, like, there's a wall.
There's a barrier.
That, like, that they can't see somebody that allows them to be, like, more vulnerable.
Yeah. And I think...
And more open.
I think to that point, too, you're also relying on them to be honest, which I don't think anyone's out there trying to actively portray themselves differently. But I think there is a big bias, like, and this is just human nature. They've done plenty of studies to show that people often overestimate their abilities on things.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, so if you're having a discussion in the pod, you can't see the person, like, it's really important to me, communication, like, how do you respond in this heated scenario or whatever? Like, because technically you could discuss all these things and they could tell you how they respond, but I find it hard to believe that, especially when that person is calm, that they're going to communicate how they actually respond. Yeah. I don't think anyone's going to say, like, oh, I'm always very calm, when in reality they, like, scream and shout. Yeah. But they might describe blowing a gasket in a different way, either because they don't, in their mind, don't really think that they blow a gasket that bad, or because they're like, I don't want to make it sound that bad, or just because they really...
Like, it's their normal, their normal isn't, like, blowing a casket. Like, blowing a casket is their normal, but their normal doesn't seem like they're blowing a casket.
Yeah, right. It's only to the other people that it seems, you know. And so again, I think there's a lot of things you can communicate verbally just by directly saying, but that it's hard to actually convey a lot of those things. Because I know for me personally, you know, if someone asked you, like, in your opinion, what's your biggest character flaw? I could talk about it for a long period of time, but I also might, not out of intention, but I might not give, like, a perfectly accurate representation of that. Yeah. Or I might talk about, like, I hope to respond this way when my anxiety is really getting me.
Yeah.
Even if that's not how I always respond or how I always
Yeah, and I
act.
think it's also to like remember like when you're going on the first or second dates or third dates, like
Or fifth
you're not
dates,
trying
yeah.
to like you're not I don't think they're really getting into like these deep like conversations of like this is how like I would react in this sausage. Like these are some times where like I didn't like
Yeah.
handle things well.
Right. Like
I
we'll
think it was
never know what they really talked about,
Yeah.
but what all you're absolutely right. All they showed on the show was like, "Oh my god, you're a Cubs fan too," or like, "Oh my
You
god,
can cook this?
Yeah, you can cook this," or like, "Ha ha ha, I find that funny," or like this, you know. So it's in that case, on those types of things, I definitely think it makes a lot of sense to be able to, in the space of 5 days, find someone that you're like, we have a similar sense of humor, we have a similar set of interests,
Yeah.
we seem to have fun together, we can sustain a conversation and not find the other person obnoxious or boring, or, you know, so in that regard, it was totally believable. But in other regards, I'm like, I don't think this is really love. Like, I think you're just really desperate.
Well, desperate people do desperate things, and love can become a result of desperation.
Yes, because I definitely don't think anyone that really feels secure in their ability to find love is going on this show. Like, I think most of the contestants went on this show because they're at kind of that, maybe desperation isn't the right word, but just this feeling of
kind of feel like they're at a tipping point. Like,
yeah, like I've tried everything. Like one of the contestants was saying after, he was like, you know, I had gotten to this point where I had given up altogether on finding love and feeling that I would ever find someone to marry and have a home and family with. I was trying to move along about my life, and now that I found this person through this process, like I'm ecstatic, right, and all this stuff. And then there are people that talk a lot about how they have a lot of failed relationships, and then of course there's the whole thing that I was eye rolling my eyes at, you know, all the women are just like, especially in the beginning, they're like, I just want to be married. Like, it seemed less of a focus on, I want to find the right partner for me, and more of a like, I want to be married.
Yeah, and I think they definitely like, definitely if you watch the show, you see that like a lot of those women, they got to like the point of like no return, and then they returned.
Yeah, they're like, oh,
I cannot do this. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so like that definitely shines a light on like you go into something wanting something, and you're like, this isn't like how it's supposed to feel. This isn't the way.
Right. Which I thought was actually interesting to highlight the societal, I don't know if it's pressure necessarily, but just how a lot of people, I said women before, I feel like a lot of women have this, but maybe men do too, and I just don't know. Just that desire to have, like, be married, and they feel like that's when, like, their life changes, or it's like a different status, or like that's just something they want to be.
Mm-hmm.
Because I felt like after the proposal, most of the women were saying like, I can't believe I'm getting married, or I'm engaged, look at this ring, right? Whereas you would think you'd be excited, like, I found the love of my life, I am so excited to find this person, right? But it's more about the whole like,
I guess I definitely didn't pick up
thing
on that as much as you seem to.
Yeah. I had something else to say about that. Oh, but the converse, which you touched on, I thought it was also great that if they didn't actually find that they felt compatible with that person,
mm-hmm.
at the end of the show, they were like, I would rather have, like, even though I want marriage and all that stuff, I can't do it if it's not the right person.
Yes.
Right? So none of them wanted it so bad that they were willing to actually go through with the wedding. Yeah. They wanted it badly enough that they're willing to do this whole thing. Right? And they're, like you said when we were watching it, like, you had plenty of chances to leave, like, cut this off, like, you're miserable, they're miserable, like, what are you doing, right? But at least, at the end of the day, they didn't, like, get married.
Yes. So, one of the couples that actually didn't get married, sorry, spoiler alert, was Jessica and Mark. And I just
No, spoiler. You watch episode 2 and you know they're not making it.
And I just felt so bad for my man, Mark. Like, I wanted to, like, literally, like, everything that happened in the show, I'm like, oh, buddy, like, no, like, don't do that. Like, so everything.
Elaborate on why you felt bad for him.
I can't really, like, I just felt bad for him because he was, like, I think because he was younger. Like, he was 24. But most of
the contestants were, like, 27,
yeah, mid-20s, yeah. So he was, like, 24. He found this girl that he was, like, really digging. He was, like, so into her. And, like, for me, I felt bad for him because, like, he couldn't see the signs. Mm-hmm. But I also was like, you're an idiot because you can't see the signs.
Yeah.
Like, there are so many signs here. It's like, this is wrong. Like,
she's not
that into you. And I think, like, some of it is that, like, I could see, like, I have seen that situation play out. I think I've, like, not to, like, that degree of, like, ready to get married. But, like, I've definitely seen that, like, situation play out where, like, one person is into the other person a lot more, and it just...
I think that, for me, was it. So, there was another couple, I won't say who, that you think is going really great, and then, like, the second to last episode, one of the partners drops this bomb, not in person, but in their little monologue to the camera type thing, being like, this isn't really going to work for us. And we're all like, oh, really? Like, and so then they break up as well. And when we were watching it, I asked you made the comment of like, well, I don't really feel bad for that person.
Yeah.
And we talked about it, and I was like, I think part of it is because we're just as blindsided as that person, right? So we feel bad that the relationship broke up, but it's not like we've been watching the whole episodes, all the episodes along, and being like, oh, I feel so bad for this guy who's being strung along, because we don't know that they're being strung along, and neither do they. So, on the converse with this Jessica and Mark situation, we know he's being strung along, and so we feel bad for that, and we feel bad, like, how can you not see the signs? Like, I feel bad for you that you can't see the signs, whereas...
And it's definitely much easier for us being on the outside watching this show.
Yeah, to see the signs and everything, but
and it's funny, like, the different... You talked a little bit about, like, how you could see the signs, but I think a lot of that also plays into, like, their personalities, and the way they are on camera.
Oh, can we pause? I had one other thing to say, but that's a great point. So just tying it back to the why we felt more sorry for one person over another person, like in similar situations where they're being strung along. I think the other thing is, in Jessica and Mark's case, we know that she's not into him at all, like barely at all, and he's really into her. Whereas if he had been also having doubts, like, she seems great, but we've got this stuff going on, but like, I still don't know if I want to marry her, but I want this to work.
Yeah.
I think I wouldn't have felt so bad, but every time...
He was so sure.
He was so sure. And he's got these big eyes, and he's just like... like, he's just adamant.
Yeah.
Every time. There's not a shadow of a doubt. Even after all these times that she's, like, broken up with him, gotten back with him,
Yeah.
Showed him her true colors. Yeah, and he's continually... so I think if he had been waffling back and forth or been, this really makes this hard for me because she's done this, I don't think she's that into me. Or if he also had, like, I'm choosing between two women, and I really like both of them, I don't know. I think that would have made it easier too. To not feel so bad for him. Anyway, okay. So, moving on.
Well, yeah, I just think, like, it's interesting to see how, like, their personalities played out. And, like, how... Especially, I think that, like, their personalities, it was definitely enhanced by alcohol. And, like, some of the couples, they're a lot more, like, reserved. And some of them were a lot more, like, volatile, for lack of a better word. Yes. Like, they're just emotional volatile.
And just open, right? Yeah. I think everybody was very emotional. some people were, like you said, more reserved and kept those emotions to themselves. Other people were much more telling of those emotions, both verbally and physically, and through their actions.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the one couple that we were kind of blindsided, I felt like those two were more reserved.
Yeah, they were definitely
and that's
more
partly
reserved.
why we were blindsided.
Yes.
Because they're very polite to each other, respectful to each other. They seem to be having a lot of fun, but because they're just not as forthcoming in showing their emotions or telling their emotions, you don't realize that it's not going as well.
Sledgehammer is coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, like, what did you think of Barnett?
I was shocked, actually, that he stayed married. Oh, is that a spoiler?
Nah, it's alright.
Okay. So, this was like the classic guy that's like into multiple women, laughs about it, jokes about it. You know, even later on at the reunion show, he was like, oh, you know, to Diamond, he's like, oh, we would have gotten past that. You would have liked me too. You know, like, he just seemed like a very typical mid-20s guy that loves to flirt. I don't know how else to put it.
Yeah, he definitely loves to flirt.
And I think it's very common. I didn't find any of the things that he was saying to be extremely disrespectful, other than the comment to Diamond.
Yeah, and like you could, I don't think in any, just based off their personalities, I don't think they would have gotten along.
No, I don't think they're compatible either. And I don't think that. I think his comment was kind of borderline. It was one of those gray areas where if someone had said it to me, I don't think I would have been offended. But I can see how someone may have been offended by that comment. And partly that's because I have a different background, you know, like, anyway. So I felt that in general he was a pretty harmless, flirtatious, average, normal guy. But not the whole time, but most of the time I was watching it, I'm like, why are you on this show that's like looking to get married? Like, the point of this show is you find someone, you fall in love with them, you propose to them, and then you get married. It's not like find a girlfriend or find 5 girlfriends. It's like get married.
So
and so
I don't think I didn't like. So you start talking about like finding 5 girlfriends. Like, I don't think he did that. Like,
no. But because he's so flirtatious with a lot of people, and especially in the pods, he had a lot of women that were very interested in him. Mm-hmm. And he seemed to very much be interested in maintaining the relationship with all 3 of those women. Like, it was hard for him to make a choice, and he didn't seem, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
He made a choice. Like,
no, he did make a choice, like, as things went on, but it wasn't like, I guess very little about his actions made me think that he was there to seriously find a lasting love.
Huh.
And whereas I felt like most of the other people were, and so for him to be one of the few people that ends up married and then still married a year later at the reunion show, I'm like, all right, like, I just...
So, like, I had the complete, like, opposite, like...
Interesting, do
like
tell.
That, like, and this definitely could be, like, a patriarchal?
Yeah, patriarchal.
Yeah, patriarchal.
Or patriarchal.
Patriarchal.
Syllable,
a patriarchal lens that I'm putting on this. But I'm like, the point of this show is, like, to see if love is blind. So, like, you're purposely put in, like, these different pods with an opportunity to, like, get to know different people. Mm-hmm. And, like, date multiple people.
Right.
And so, like, while you're there, like, you should be open that, like, you may find different connections with different people.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm not trying to say that him making a connection with 3 women and wanting to sustain that as long as possible is a problem. I think that's what you have to do to try to have this be as successful as possible, right? If you talk to someone, each person only once or twice, and you've already wiped out everybody that except for one person, you're missing out on, like, a lot, right?
Yeah.
I think that's, you know, and I think we saw in a lot of cases, you know, Jessica was talking to multiple people. I think they all were, and it maybe didn't come through as much, but on the reunion show, like, they talked about Lauren and Damien having a long period of time like lots of conversations, right? And they did the Star Wars voices to each other and everything, like, which none of that was shown.
No, it was not
right.
shown.
So I think this also, like you talked about how their personalities kind of related to it. I think what the producers choose to include also plays a huge role in how we perceive people. Because I had this, when you're talking about Barnett, part of the reason I had this conception that, like, I'm shocked that he's still married and was looking for a serious relationship, because none of the things that we got to see him say in the pods was serious at all, right? It's him flirting nonstop. So it gives the impression, even though we don't know if it's true or not, that he never had any of those deep talks or any of those, like, I'm really trying to see if we're compatible here. Like, we only see him making funny jokes and small talks, laughing, getting the girl to laugh, and just being flirtatious, which, if you're trying to find a partner, like, I imagine that they did have a lot of small talk, but I imagine that they also had a lot of more serious discussions. So I think that because three women had him high on their list, they were like, oh, this is the one we're going to make look like the playboy.
Villain. Yeah, we have to have a villain.
Right, even though, you know, I have a completely different perception of Jessica, even though we got to see her do the same thing. With have two guys that were high on her list. But never once was I like, oh, Jessica is not here to find a relationship. Like, they portrayed her very much as, I'm trying to find the one, and I want to get married, right? So my point with that is similar behaviors can be construed different ways based on what is portrayed. So what was your most shocking thing for you?
Throughout the whole...
you the most? Yeah, throughout the whole show.
Yeah, I just, like, the most surprising thing, I would say, is just Mark. I just keep coming back to Mark.
Yeah, I think he was the impetus for doing this podcast.
Yeah. Like, my homeboy Mark. Like, I want to form a support group and help him, like, find true love.
Times,
Hopefully he's through the troubled times now.
Yeah, you said he wanted him to be the next Bachelor.
Yeah, I think he should be the next Bachelor. Like, he's clearly looking for love and just on the wrong places.
Yeah.
So what was, like, the most shocking thing to you?
Honestly, the most shocking thing to me was how accepting all the parents were. I was expecting we got a little bit of drama with the parents accepting the situation, but not nearly as much as I expected. And to hear as many parents as there was, so of the original 10 men and 10 women, 5 couples said, I want to be married to you, and did the proposal in the pods. So the rest, and that all happened in the first, like, 2 episodes. So the rest of the 8 episodes.
Wasn't it like 6?
No. It was Diamond and Carlton. It was Lauren and Cameron, Damien and Giannina, Barnett and Amber, and then Kenny and Kelly. There's nobody else.
So it was only 4 weddings.
Yeah, there's only 4 weddings.
Gotcha.
So 5 couples, so that means 10 people, 20 sets of 20 parents.
Yeah.
We didn't get to talk to all the parents.
No.
But of the ones we talked to, 4 of them, so 2 parent couples, were like, oh yeah, we got engaged after knowing each other for 2 months. They're like, oh yeah, we were married within like 4 months of the first time we ever met. And I'm like, I guess it was a different time. It doesn't seem like that long ago, but holy smokes, like, I thought my parents got married like super fast, but it was many more months than that, like. So, and I realized there's different cultural preferences and how things go, and a lot of things probably play into all this. But it was just really interesting to me because, especially with you the whole time in the background being like, my kids do this, like, I failed as a father, like, all this stuff.
Like, the whole...
and I did. You're like, yeah, I would be really concerned, right? Like, it would be a tough pill for me to swallow if my child, we talked about this, if our child came and was like, hey,
I'm engaged.
I've talked to this guy through a wall for a total of 6 hours and now we're engaged. I would be seriously concerned.
And so
it was really, that was the most shocking thing to me, that all of the parents were as chill with it as they were. And who knows, maybe that's just, I'm trying to support my child on national television, right? Like, I don't want to make this a big issue. But I think that part of the reason we didn't see as much of the Meet the Parents as we did was because it wasn't as dramatic as the producers expected it to be. Because they're not putting the show on for like, okay, everyone be mature, make rational decisions. Like, they're trying to get the juice, like, they're trying to get the drama. So I was really surprised by that.
Well, it's funny that you said the, what did you just say?
I said the parents, and that they were so accepting and laughing at us being like, oh, if our kid did this, like,
yeah. So, like, the whole thing, like, last night I was and the whole time in watching the show, I have been saying.
Yeah, we didn't watch it all last night.
I would feel like I failed as a parent if my kid went on the show. Because I'm, like, from the South, you kind of expect, like, your kids to bring home, like, their significant other, and, like, you're gonna have some dinners and, like, get to know each other. And so, like, to have that, like, be significantly, like, disruptive.
Especially if it's, like, again, speaking of the patriarchy, but you kind of expect the man to ask for your hand, like, you know, ask for your blessing.
I'm not as caught up on that one. But I would like at least to get to know them before. Like, to have one dinner. But so, like, I think in, like, looking on that, like, I definitely would feel like I failed as a parent, but I think we are definitely changing, like, as a society, and, like, the way, like, relationships come about. Mm-hmm. Like, there's Tinder apps and things like that. And, like, so people are literally, like, looking on their phones and, like, making decisions about, like, oh, like, would I like to go out with this person? Would I not like to go out with this person? And I'm sure there are probably some people that are, like, married their Tinder date after, like, 3 months. Because they're like, I'm so infatuated.
I don't know if it's that quick, but, like, there's the reason that online dating is a thing is because it does work for a lot of people. And I know personally, when I graduated college, I was like, oh, I'm never going to do online dating and blah, blah, blah. But now my attitude has totally changed. I know what it feels like to go to work and come home and you didn't already have a relationship. It's really hard to meet other people.
Yeah.
And so now I think it's a great invention, right? And there's problems to that too, right? Someone could be catfishing you, or someone could be totally misrepresenting who they are. So they might send you pictures and they're not recent, or it might be of someone else. But that's not to say that you can't also develop a meaningful emotional connection to someone through that platform. It's nice that if they're in your area, you can meet up with them in real life.
Yes.
But there's been plenty of scenarios where they live very far apart, and then they decide to get married, and that's the first time they've ever actually lived in the same place. And I mean, same thought, like, Jen and Jimmy met each other not through online dating, but the majority of their relationship was distance. And I think, you know, they could only see each other very few times throughout the year, and when they could, it was like a short weekend or a week, and it's like this vacation feel to it, as opposed to this is the day-to-day grind. Mm-hmm. But here they are, married with a beautiful child, and couldn't be more in love, you know. So
I was just trying to, like, and my point in bringing this up is just that, like, yes, I would feel like I failed as a parent, but also I think that, like, 30 years from now, like, who knows, like, how dating is gonna look. Mm-hmm. And so, well, like, that's my kids could be, like, on a show like this, and it may be, like, regular practice, like, maybe something that is just regularly done. Yeah. And this is the way the kids do it these days.
That's what my point was with all these different examples was, you're absolutely right that the way we find love is changing.
Yeah.
And the premise of the show is Love is Blind, I think is also just is a good name for it because they couldn't see each other. But I think part of this was also less of the is it blind, is it not blind, and more of the can you develop that connection without having a physical connection, right? And whether or not that's blind because I can't see you, or it's lack of a physical connection because you live across the world. Yeah, we could Skype, or so I can see what you look like, but I'm not cuddling you, I'm not affectionate with you, and 99% of our interactions are via text message or a phone, right? So just through that conversation, is it possible to develop a strong emotional connection? And I feel like there's plenty of examples that say it is.
It's funny, like, I would say 90% of the show, though, they were cuddle up and, like...
Oh, yeah, because I only did the pod for the first 2 episodes. And then it's like, oh, you're engaged now. Now you can meet each other and, like, let's watch this go down. So explain... I also feel... I would feel upset as a parent if my child went on this show. Not that they exercise their freedom to make their own choices. I would feel upset that they felt like this was the best option, I guess. Why? So when you say, oh, I feel like I would fail as a parent, like what about it makes you feel that way? Or like,
that,
what
like
did you fail to do?
You don't have the confidence to, like, you don't have the confidence to kind of be out in society or, like, go be, like, I don't know, it's just this a traditional thing. I think, like, the traditional thing of, like, going out and, like, talking to someone and, like, being attracted to them and them being attracted to you and, like, taking a risk. I feel like in the, like, yes, they were taking a risk, but I feel like some of, like, what in building a relationship with somebody is taking the risk of, like, the initial, like, hey, do you want to be my boyfriend or my girlfriend? Mm-hmm. And that, like, to me, there's something that is, like, that takes courage. That takes, like, confidence. And I think they, like, that courage and confidence helps build, like, a strong foundation for a relationship. Or, like, it just helps in building the relationship. And I think they just kind of skipped over that part.
So you didn't think it took courage for any of the people proposing to propose?
No, like,
so how? So
like, I don't, like, I just, it's different. I just think it's different.
Interesting. I mean, I felt the same as you in terms of, like, I would be upset as a parent. And like I said, because I'd be upset they felt like that was their only option. And kind of what I mean by that is, I guess to me, it just seemed like everything was so sped up. And I'd be worried that they felt like the only way I can achieve this end goal is to do it in this manner, which doesn't, in my opinion, doesn't allow the best chance for success, right? It just seems like really sped up with a lot of things on the line, and, like, you don't have that time to vet this person and feel them out in all these different scenarios in real life. Mm-hmm. In order to make that decision. You kind of have to make that gamble decision at the beginning and then see if it works out. Yeah. And that's what I would feel, you know, I'm like, I wish that they would have the patience and confidence to, like, faith to be like, this will work out on its own time for me.
Yeah.
But
I can see that. I just, the whole, like, you want to be with somebody, go out, talk to people, like, build a relationship. Don't, like,
right. And again, that's where I was coming from. It seemed like everybody going on this show was just really desperate.
Well, it's funny, like, you talked about, like, being able to build something that's going to last. And I think that, like, for me at least, Barnett, like, he seemed to be, like, committed, and he seemed to be like, I'm going to make this work.
When did you feel that?
Like, the second he made the decision that, like, I'm going to go with, what's her name?
Amber.
Amber. Like, he was like, 100% full speed ahead. Like, I'm gonna make this work, and like going to talk with his like family, and like hearing about her and like her situation. Like, I feel like no matter what, he was like, you know what, I'm going to like, no matter what is happening here, no matter like Jessica coming to talk to me, like whatever, like I'm gonna make this work.
Yeah, and you know, I think you make a great point because out of all the contestants, male and female, I feel like the three that were most steadfast and committed were Mark, Cameron, Lauren with Lauren.
Yeah.
And even though Lauren, I had some waffling, but
I didn't think her waffling
I don't think
was
her
that
waffling
bad.
was
I thought it was
about
more of
Cameron.
like,
It was just about this process.
yes.
So anyway, I agree with you. And then my third would be Barnett. And I agree completely. Like, once he made the choice, this is the one I'm going with. We didn't see anything shown to us of him being like, oh, I wish I had gone for this person. Or in the situations where they make them all interact together, he was never once seeking out Jessica to talk to her.
Yeah.
He was always trying to hang out with Amber, get to know her better. And it was only out of, like, human decency that when Jessica came up to talk to him, he was like, I'll sustain this like, and you could tell he was
awkward.
He felt awkward in it, you know, so he wasn't like, oh yeah, another chick's like digging me, I'm gonna keep flirting with her. He very much was, once he made the choice, the flirting stopped. So I agree with you.
Yeah.
So if you need a good laugh.
Yeah, something to do while quarantined inside your house, because we should all be inside our house.
Yes.
Watch Love is Blind. It's a good show.
Yep, and that's what we've been doing.
Deuces. We'll see you later.